welcome. Oh, there we go. Welcome to our Monday Night Beyond Beauty Club training. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Caren Wilson, and I'm really excited to be your host tonight. I have a very special guest speaker who I'm going to introduce shortly, but before I do that, I just wanted to welcome everybody, say thank you for joining us tonight. If it's your first meeting with us, I can't sound like I'm running like Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not. If it's your first meeting or your first training with us, welcome to the community, the best club ever. I'm excited to share lots with you tonight. So tonight's interview is with our very special CEO, Shari Jafari, and I will be bringing her on in about 5 minutes. So I'm excited to do that. Before we start, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for sending me gorgeous messages about my ankle. I did break my ankle yesterday, which was very unfortunate, but thank you so much if you've messaged me. I haven't got back to replying to everyone. I am absolutely fine and looking forward to building more legs and breaking less ankles. It is the perfect time to be in bed resting, managing to work through all my messages. So yes, I'm absolutely fine, just a little bit sore, but all good. If you're new to the team, and I've had a few messages as well saying I'm brand new and I'm not really sure what to do next, we have an amazing Facebook Academy group. Thank you so much, Holly. We have an amazing Facebook Academy group, and there is a training from James from a couple of weeks ago that explains exactly what to do on your first steps. And if you're not brand new and you still feel like, oh, I'm just not really sure what to do, go back and watch that again. I have watched it twice. It's really helpful. It's step by step. It literally shows you everything to do, and there's even a worksheet to go alongside it. So definitely go back and have a look at that recording. And if you're not in the Facebook group, Rachel's just dropped the link in the comments. Also, if you haven't seen, we have our first incentive set to be a founding ambassador, which is an amazing thing to have against your name. A founding ambassador of the Beyond Beauty Club, which is one day going to be a billion-dollar company. You want to be a founder. So have a look in the Facebook Academy group from a live from Holly from last week. She set that on Friday. It's an amazing chance to get some amazing things. So before I introduce our CEO, Shari, I would love to just read to you. I'll just bring Shari on. Hi, Shari. So I would love to just read to you guys a little bit about Shari. And so Shari is a beauty, I'm going to read this out. I'm going to learn it eventually because I'll say it so many times. Is a beauty industry leader for over 20 years. She lived across 4 continents, managing one of the largest global beauty brands, Clinique, which has grown to 3 billion. Highly experienced in the development of the skincare category to bring consumers products to meet their skin concerns. And she's our CEO and co-founder of the Beyond Beauty Club. Shari, I'm so excited to have you on our call tonight. It's the first experience of us being able to really get to know you. So I'm super excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm also excited to be here. Of course, I've been on all of the calls somewhat in the background and, looking at faces and listening to all the amazing content. And it's just such a pleasure for me to see my dream and our co-founders' dreams, Dan Holzman and Simon Orion, start to come to life. And the unbelievable, overwhelming response we've had is just giving me much more energy than I thought I'd ever have in this moment in my life. So thank you for including me in this call tonight. I'm very excited to be here. And I don't see everybody's faces, but I see a particular profile photo and it says, "Make your dreams happen." I don't know who that is. Marlene.
Yeah.
So thank you for having that there. And I think that could be the motto of our entire call. Thank you, Marlene.
Oh, that's so lovely. Making your dreams happen. It's gorgeous. Okay, so Shari, I'd love to start with everybody. So guys, I met Shari in August last year. I walked into a meeting room and she gave me a massive hug. So that just showed we never met before. We'd only spoken on WhatsApp. Shari's got the most amazing energy. And I loved listening to your story. And I just wonder if you could share a little bit about you and your story so that the team can get to know you.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Emma. You know, obviously I come also from very humble backgrounds. I was born in Tehran. And when I was very young, my family had to leave our home country because of the state that the country was in. So we actually left when I was very young. I grew up in Canada. You know, we built a second life, I would say, in a new country, in a new home. Easier for me. I was very young. And so Canada became home. So I grew up in Canada. I did all my schooling there. And when I left high school, I always thought I wanted to be a dermatologist. So this actually has an ending, this story, but I progressed in dermatology and not even halfway through, I realized I can't actually physically deal with people's skin problems. It was really bothering me. So I decided to change my major into business and international business. So I didn't really know why. I just knew that I was good with numbers, and I definitely didn't want to be a doctor. My heart was too weak. When I saw blood, I couldn't handle it. So I studied international commerce, and right out of university, I left to work for Clinique. So I didn't become a dermatologist, but I ended up working for the skincare brand that was developed by a dermatologist. And I was 22. I had never left the country, barely, maybe a spring break here or there. And I moved all the way across to the other part of the world. So I left my family. I was very young and very ambitious, and I basically left with 2 suitcases and never returned. And maybe you asked me a little bit about where I went and what happened, because I thought I was going to leave for 2 years. You know, I'd worked when I was in school. I was a part-time fragrance spritzer. So I used to work seasonally, and actually whenever I could get hours, let's put it that way, to pay for university and get through school. And so I started to really love this beauty scene. I didn't really know much about it, but I just loved being on the shop floor, and I loved, making people happy and seeing them leave with smiles on their face. And I'd never experienced that. So I really enjoyed my time, spraying fragrances. And at the time, maybe some of you had heard of it, but Tommy Hilfiger was like the brand. So I was, spraying a fragrance that had just launched called Freedom by Tommy Hilfiger. So anyways, I did really well in this, and just speaking to people and finding what's right for people. And so I knew that once I finished my education, I wanted to move abroad and just get a little bit more international experience. And I left now over 22, 23 years ago. And since then I've been working in the beauty and skincare world. As Emma said, leading the #1 skincare brand in the world, Clinique, which I'm sure most of us have either heard of or tried, or our mothers have tried it, or our daughters or our sisters, So a real household name in many of our households when we were growing up. And here we are. So I don't know, Emma, should I continue on the...
Yeah, I would love if you would share a little bit about how, because you didn't just go and work for Clinique, it was obviously a huge journey. I would love if you would share a little bit about that, because I think it just shows why you are such a wealth of knowledge to this company, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Yeah, I was 21, 22. I barely had any, let's call it, corporate experience. I'd worked on the shop floor, and I had done internships while I was studying. So I knew a little bit about being in an office, but not much. And so I actually got headhunted to go and live in Dubai. And I think 23 years ago, not many people had heard the word Dubai. I'm pretty sure now a lot of people have, maybe a raise of hand who has. And so I remember telling my parents, I was 21, 22. I said, okay, I've finished school now, and I've been asked to go work for this really big company. They're called Estee Lauder companies, and they'd like me to go to Dubai. And my family said, well, to work in a mall? They thought I was going to continue the career on the shop floor. And because that's just the type of person I was, and I was a self-starter, and they knew I would kind of do anything to succeed. And I said, no, they want to grow the brand there, and they need some help with marketing. And I'm just going to go for 2 years and I'll be back. I'm just going to get some experience and I'll be back. And so it was a lot for the family because, you know, we had left under really terrible conditions, the Middle East, and then we had come to Canada where we had created a better life for ourselves, and my parents had rebuilt their life, and, you know, they didn't know any English when they arrived. So we were in a much better situation at that time. And I said, I'm going to go for 2 years and I'll be back. Well, 2 years turned into 14 years in the Middle East, and then another 6, 7 years in Europe. So I haven't gone back yet. I'm I'm still on the journey, let's say. But I think what's really interesting, and Emma, you and I talked about that, you know, I entered a very male-dominated part of the world, especially at that time. Of course, now things have evolved immensely. But when I arrived, I was, you know, a young woman under the age of 30, not married. It was almost unheard of to have, you know, a single woman like that traveling around that region and staying in hotels and not being accompanied by a man. So I had to work twice as hard as everybody else in the room. I had to work twice as hard. I had to speak a little bit louder than everybody else in the room. And I had to really work at building the trust with the team members, you know, and also, you know, speaking on behalf of other women. So I was really paving the way for a lot of other women that came in after me, in fact. And an anecdote of my career in the Middle East, I was actually the first female under the age of 40, unmarried, that entered Saudi Arabia. So it was a really big accomplishment because typically visas were only given to men, you know, first of all. And if you were a woman gaining a visa, you were either traveling with your brother or your husband or your parents. So, you know, I went into that market, and over a span of 4 years, I changed an entire sales force of men who were selling cosmetics in the country. I think about 1,000 people, to women. So we, you know, did everything from educating all the females on how to sell the product, how to speak to consumers, how to groom themselves, you know, all the things that maybe we would take for granted or still take for granted. And these young women had barely ever left their home, you know, without a guardian or a husband, let's say. So it was so valuable for me to have such a big footprint in that market and be involved in empowering so many women. I spent countless hours and trips in the country, you know, speaking to various different women and empowering them and making sure that they had the right tools to succeed in a place where it was almost impossible, you know, to succeed. So, I mean, now fast forward 10 years and we have women driving there, and you know, a lot is happening in that part of the world. But for me, this was really a instrumental moment in my career, but also in my personal life, because, you know, I come from that background, and it was just so important for me to help any way I could get women to the forefront and continue to do that, you know, and give everybody a voice and give them the opportunities to succeed, because I saw all of that in my family, you know.
I think, Shari, I'm so glad you shared that story, because it just shows so much about who you are as a, you know, as a human who is going to be the CEO of this incredible company, like what you stand for, and just what a beautiful soul, but powerhouse of a woman that you are. Like it's something we can be so proud of. Like it's just incredible. So I'm so glad that you guys have got to hear that. I was like, Shari, please tell the bit about Saudi Arabia, because for me, I remember going home to my dad, tell my dad everything, and I was like, Dad, I've been to this amazing meeting, I've met Shari. My mum looked up Shari and was like looking at her pictures, and I was like, and listen to this story, like just something to be, you know, to know that that's who's leading us, just amazing. So yeah,
that's very kind. You know, Emma, one of the things, and this is kind of I don't share this with a lot of people, but here we are with, I don't know, 150 people on a call, but it's easier when it's just a screen. But, you know, I always worked kind of in silence. You know, it was very important for me to just get the job done and to reach the goals that I wanted to reach. So I never really talked about these accomplishments and these big things that I did. For 8 years, for example, I was traveling every 6 weeks to India. I mean, a market that has 2 billion people and very underdeveloped, a lot of, I mean, there's no skin routine. There was no skin routine in India, but it was just about, let's get this done and let's do it as a team and let's build the right community around us and do it. So it's really nice to be able to tell you all about this and hopefully inspire some of you, at least by the story, because as I said earlier, make your dreams happen. And Marlene, I see again your photo here, but that's truly what we're about to do for a lot of people with the Beyond Beauty Club. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that, Emma and I now, I think.
Yeah, so we're coming from Clinique, and then I know Dan touched it a little bit that you guys met at dinner, but I'd love to just hear from your point of view how this, this whole story unfolded and how you became a co-founder and built this together.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in destiny. I'm a big believer in energy. I'm a big believer in what you put out, you also get back. And that's how I have truly lived my life. It's also how we were taught to live our lives. So I think it was no accident that Dan Holzman and I met. In fact, I had already decided to leave the big corporate hamster wheel because I had just spent, 20 years of my life traveling the world and succeeding and meeting so many amazing people, which most of them are still very dear or close friends of mine. But I wanted to get a little bit more balance in my life and also make a much bigger impact than I was having at that point in a $3 billion brand, right? So the impact that you have on a $3 billion brand becomes much less, but when you go in somewhere at the beginning, you can have a much bigger impact. And you can also take the experiences of all the things you loved and bring it into one place. So long story short, Dan and I met at a dinner. I think I had just come from a yoga class. I will tell everybody that. And I think I was wearing a hoodie sweater. Don't quote me, but I think it said "Namaste bitches" on the sweater. So I was really not in I was not in a business mood or anything. I was actually in a great space, and I decided to leave the corporation. And long story short, when you get to know me, you'll see I'm not one to really talk about myself. So, Dan and I were speaking, and we were sat next to each other, and his beautiful fiance was also next to us. And we were just talking about ourselves and life. And so he heard my whole story about the cosmetics world, and he didn't say anything. And I was just, high on my own energy because I had just come from yoga and I had just decided to leave this big corporate, hamster wheel. So I was happy. And so he listened to everything and he said, well, I've just founded a beauty company. And I said, oh, so you listened to me. And he said, yeah, and we're looking for a CEO. And it was that, it was just that easy. And so that one conversation, obviously we met 2 or 3 more times. We happened to live very close to each other. So it was easy to get together again. And he told me about his past. And obviously I was not only inspired, but by what he did, but I also had a lot of views about what he did. And I thought that in today's environment, that method of business can be modernized in so many ways and touch so many people. Because, coming from a big brand, all I just remember was we were paying all these really big influencers, who had 30 million followers and 100 million, and we were paying them money to talk about the product. And they would talk about it for a day and then talk about another brand. And in my head, I was thinking, but hang on a second, we're all influencers in our world. We all influence at least 1, 2, or 3 people that are close to us, our friend, maybe our mother, or, whoever, a coworker, whoever. And so our discussions went deeper, and he started to tell me, look, Shari, I was very successful in my previous business, but I want to go back and I want to do things differently. And I want to do just like you want to do things differently from all the things you learned from, the corporate side and the retail side and the e-commerce side. I want to do the same on the direct sales side. And these conversations got deeper and deeper. And I said, you know what, let's join forces. I've seen one other side of this world. You've seen another side of the world. And it sounds like we both want to fix and do better the same things. And that's how we, embarked on this journey that is now the Beyond Beauty Club. And really from day one, we said we will build $1 billion company. And we've both done it before. So we're going to do it again, maybe even more. And also we work very well together. So I haven't looked back. Let's put it that way. I've now put together an unbelievable team. I call them the A-team. We have some of the team members here in Zurich, where I'm based. We have an unbelievable team in the UK that's also growing. So I think Holly, the country manager, is also on the call this evening. She's spearheading the entire team in the UK and is doing an amazing job. And we have a couple of people in Los Angeles, Beverly Hills with Dr. Orion. So we're starting to expand, and I can't tell you how many emails and messages I'm getting about, who's next after the UK. So it's just the beginning.
And yeah, it's amazing, this story. I love hearing it. And obviously you work with Dan on the MDO product. So, there's so much experience, and I know we're not going to talk too much about that tonight, but that obviously had something to do. Oh, hi, Holly said evening. That had something to do with why you chose to come to the UK. So actually, before we jump onto the UK, can we just talk about when you met Simon?
Oh, yes.
Because everybody's excited about, obviously, is Kim Kardashian's dermatologist. So let's just talk about that for a second.
Yeah, it's true. I can tell you, I've worked out of the practice a number of times. When I go to meet Simon and have some time with him, I work in the actual clinic. So I'll tell you about that. But, first of all, Simon is an unbelievable specialist in the area that he specializes in cosmetic dermatology. His love of art has transpired into what he does to his patients' faces. And he truly believes that everyone is born beautiful. And with the right enhancements, everyone can go back to their kind of natural beauty. So he doesn't take a knife to anybody. It's very much enhancements around the face. And as most of you know, he's seeing the most famous faces in the world, from the Kardashians. Kim is there regularly. If you were all on his Instagram, I think she was there last week with a friend of hers, her mother, her sisters, and the list is endless. So when I met him, I just found him so incredibly humble. Himself, his family, he's got 3 beautiful children who he drives to work every morning, not to work, to school every morning himself, a very involved father, and then is straight to the clinic. And he's, I think there's something like 24 rooms in the clinic. Don't quote me, but there was a lot of doors and I didn't get to go into all of them, but he's going from one room to the next, to the next, to the next. And most of the time there's a lot of famous people there, and so I have this little office in the practice that overlooks the valet parking behind the practice, where all the famous people come in. So every now and then I just peek out, and I saw Kris Jenner walk in, I saw Lady Gaga walk in, but of course it's all hush hush in the practice because we don't want everybody squealing. But for again, with what he does and the individuals that he's close to, he's so humble. And as I said earlier, I believe in a lot of kind of the destiny and energies. And so Simon and I also come from a very similar background, because he's also Iranian. And I know that he's on one of your upcoming calls, so I won't steal Simon's thunder, but he also has a very inspiring story, which I think most of you would love to hear, you know, from where he started and where he is today. So when I met Simon, the deal was done. I thought, you know what, the three of us are going to create a powerhouse of an offering. And so that was kind of the green light, the final green light.
I think when you said you saw Kris Jenner, I just went off into like a you said I saw Kris Jenner, and then I was just like in a little world of my own. No, it's amazing. And yeah, he's a really, really lovely guy. And yes, he will be on one of our calls in the near future, guys. So you want to make sure that you're on these Monday night calls. Just imagine that. Okay, so back to the UK question. Sorry, I like skip forward and jump back. So yeah, why the UK? Like,
yeah, oh my gosh, okay. Wow, I think we talked about our first market for hours. I wish I took track of how many hours Dan and I discussed different markets, but in the end, you know, I said, you know what, I took kind of the brainstorming hat on, and I said, let's do a pros and cons of all the big markets, because of course we had so much interest, and we had spent at that time almost 2 years speaking to thousands of micro influencers. We had spent time talking to hundreds of other direct selling companies to just understand what is working, what is not. So we had a lot of information. And I think, Emma, on one of your previous calls, you said a one-liner. Do you remember what you said? We're starting with experience.
We're not starting from scratch. We're starting from experience. Yeah.
And that's the experience. You know, I had dedicated 3 years to that. So again, we're not starting from scratch. We're really starting from experience. So in the end, we decided the UK for a number of reasons, but I would say the main ones was we understood that the need in the UK market for this sort of revolutionary company and offering was the most. So that was one. For us, the vicinity to, you know, kind of Simon and also the global team was very important, so that we could have a lot more influence together, bring the team here, make sure that we get to go there often and be very close together. And, you know, the language was very important. Obviously, we wanted to first go with an English speaking language. And also a lot of the micro influencers that we spoke to, just, you know, we spoke to so many very, very successful individuals. And maybe some of you are on this call, I mean, Emma included, and everyone was frustrated. So they were doing very well, but it was just taking way too much from them. So we thought the biggest market size is there, the biggest opportunity is there. The biggest awareness for Simon Orion outside of the US is there. And all of these things kind of just added up to us deciding on the UK to be the first global market. I mean, we could have very easily gone to the US, of course, but we felt after doing our homework that this was the biggest opportunity for the club members, but also for the company, of course.
Yeah, I love it. I'm so happy that we're first. I'm like, yeah.
And I'm happy because it's so close. So I'm there often. So I think I need to get a little room there somewhere in the UK.
Yeah, we need you here more. We need you here more. But hopefully we're going to see you next month.
Absolutely. We have a little tour happening towards the end of May. I'm very excited. Some of the places I've never visited, so it's going to be new for me, but I hope I get to meet everybody in person. I think that always makes such a big difference. So yes, I'm excited about coming and seeing you guys again next month.
I'm excited to see you. Okay, so the big question that I managed to skip through because I wanted to save it to the end. So let's talk about the personalization, because that's obviously, you know, the big thing that takes us and sets us apart from everything else.
Yeah. I mean, guys, personalization, I mean, we're all unique, right? We're all unique in our skin tone, in our hair color, in our, you know, body composition, in the way that we live our lives. And just because you are a way, it doesn't mean the person next to you has to be the same way. So having been 20 years, 23 years in the cosmetics industry, I realized that a lot of women and men, but more women, were wasting a lot of money. And what do I mean by that? I mean that, we were all looking for the best moisturizer, right? But before we found the moisturizer that suited our skin, we probably tried 3 to 5 moisturizers until we said, okay, this is the right one for my skin. One person recommended something, it wasn't right. I tried the other one, it made my face oily. And maybe for you, it's a moisturizer, maybe it's a mascara, maybe it's a fragrance, I don't know. Maybe it's your shampoo that never suited your skin. So I realized very quickly that, when you turn people off from your brand because they didn't get the right product, it's very hard to get those customers back. And it's also even more important, they don't get any results. So they pay the money, but they don't get the results. So taking that ethos of, everyone is unique, combining that with the world's leading cosmetic dermatologist and bringing them together through technology was almost like now it sounds like a no-brainer. It took us 3 years, but, bringing all of that together and colliding that together meant that we could bring to every consumer a product recommendation that was right for their skin based on their lifestyle and their concerns. And all the way to your door. So you get the product that says formulated for, Emma or Rachel or Holly. So it's truly yours. And so, this was important. And of course, at different phases in our lives, our skin also changes, right? So, one might fall pregnant and her skin changes, or one has just given birth and her skin changes, or you're just coming out of your teens and your skin is different. So we're able to kind of meet your needs on every level throughout your entire skin journey. And so personalization, there was no other way. When you've got a doctor with 25 years of experience dealing with so many different skin types, and you're able to kind of marry that with the right technology and the right products, it's the only way that we believe the future will be going forward, because we don't have that disposable income either to now try, various different skin routines and see what's right and what's not right. So it's not a one size fits all. That was kind of my whole motto from the beginning.
I love it. And I think, like with nutrition and other things, people might maybe have an understanding, but skin is just, my skin's changed. When I was younger, it was like whatever combination is, right? Now it's quite dry, like you need a really good moisturizer. Obviously, I've been using MDO's cream and it's amazing on my skin, but in lockdown, I spent a fortune on stuff that I just thought might help. Someone said, oh, you should buy retinol. So I bought retinol. Someone said, buy this acid. So I bought this acid. And my skin wasn't getting better because I didn't understand, So I just feel like it's such a important thing for us, especially as women. I'm sure it's important for men too, but more for us. And then to really to be able to have someone tell us exactly what we need is just a no-brainer. A no-brainer.
And, I think like a lot of us are so busy, some have children, some have grandchildren, some are, working full time, some are working 2 jobs, we don't have a lot of time either. So to be able to receive a box at your home that tells you steps 1 to 3 or steps 1 to 5 and how to use them, I think that just cuts down the time in which you need to figure things out. And you've got one thing from one brand and nothing from another brand. You've got the whole kit that arrives, at your doorstep that it's formulated for you and it's going to be right for your skin. And if that doesn't work, if you like my skin, you know what products I'm using. So
you have amazing skin, Shari.
Thank you.
That's what everybody says when they meet you. Wow, Shari's skin's amazing. I'm like, I know.
Thank you. So, thank you.
Beautiful skin. Beyond beautiful. Okay, so thank you so much. Hang on, what's going on here? Sorry, guys. Thank you so much for coming on our call this evening. Just before we close off, I just wondered if you would share with us just what you're excited for most in the next weeks coming.
The only thing, okay. I think for me, the most excitement I have really is the community we're about to build, because it is going to be so different from all the other communities that are out there that I think anyone a part of it, there's no way but up is kind of the expression I want to go with, because we're all there to, you know, lift each other, support each other, you know, do things together, experience new adventures together, but also grow together, you know, and through the online academy and the team that we have behind the online academy, I think that there is only success set forward for everyone, because we've personalized the journey for everybody. It really is there to work on your time and to your needs. It's not a one size fits all, even the opportunity that's there. So for me, the most exciting part beyond, you know, the product and the AI and Dr. Orion and the successes that, you know, the experiences, the team, it's the community. And I can't wait to be in a room together or on a trip together, celebrating successes and seeing each of you, you know, grow and be rewarded. For me, that's going to be the most enriching, I must say.
I'm excited for that too. So excited. It's going to be amazing. I just want to say thank you so much for coming on our call tonight and sharing with everyone. And guys, I know that you will have loved meeting Shari, and there's more to come. So thank you for joining us. And yeah, have a beautiful
and good
evening.
luck, everybody. You know, I hope I get to meet everyone at some point. I'm sure I will, but I wish you really an abundance of luck and energy and power through the next, you know, 8 weeks. We have a very exciting launch planned. And I think the team that Emma is building in the UK is going to be something that everyone will look up to and be inspired by. So thank you, Emma, for also, you know, leading the way and building this beautiful path for others to follow.
Oh, thank you. And I think we have something coming soon, right, Shari?
We do. It's very exciting. You know, we've been dropping different things at different times in the pipeline. So please keep your eyes peeled on your inboxes and on your app, because very soon the reward plan will also be released. So I know Emma will keep in close contact with most of you, but that's coming out very, very soon. And I know a lot of you are eager about that as well. But I have no doubt in my mind that even that will blow most of your expectations. So
yes, I'm excited. That is the compensation plan, which we would known as the career plan or the reward plan in Beyond Beauty. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Shari. Everyone have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you very soon.
Thanks everyone.
Shari. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Take care.